All right, so question number 1 gives us this table, and it asks us to graph it by hand. Now, the graphs that we looked at in our lecture, the axes went up in increments of 1. So the axes looked like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, and the same thing on the y-axis. So in economics, you don't typically see graphs like this because we're usually dealing with larger or more complex numbers. So you can make your axes have any increments that you want, whatever suits your data. So in this graph, I am going to choose, I think for my x-axis, I'm going to go in increments of 5. That's what my x values are in. And I think I'll have room to get to 45 if I do like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. Draw this out a little bit more, and there's 45. So I'm going to label this 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45. Now for y, my price, I'm going to go up in increments of 2. Let's make sure that I have enough room for that. So if I do 2, 4, 6, x-axis, quantity, and my y-axis, price. I'm going to indicate that we're talking about dollars here. Okay, so my first set of values is 45 and 2. So 45 on my quantity and 2 on my price. My next set is 40 and 4. So 40 and 4, we end up there. And then 35 and 6 here. 30 and 8. 25 and 10. 20 and 12. Let's see, 15 and 14. 10 and 16. 5 and 18. And 0 and 20. So this is what my line ends up looking like. So the next question is, does this line have a positive or a negative slope? So we talked about the fact that a positive slope would look like a line going up and to the right, but we have a line that's going down and to the right. So this is a negative slope. Next question asks if this line represents a direct relationship or an indirect relationship. So remember that a direct relationship means that as the price goes up, the quantity also goes up. Now this isn't the case. as the price goes up here, the quantity that we sell goes down. So this is an indirect relationship. The next question asks, what is the slope of this line? So I'm going to figure out my slope by taking 2 points on the graph. We'll say this point and this point. And I'm going to count my rise and my run between the two. So my rise is here, I'm going down 1, 2, so that makes it -2 on the rise. And then I go over 1, 2, which is a +2 for the run. So if I have -2 divided by +2, we're going to end up with -1. Now, notice that I could pick any 2 points on this line that go through whole numbers on both the x-axis and the y-axis, and I'll end up at the same thing. So let's take these 2 points. We have -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's a rise of -6. And a run of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. +6. So you end up with -6 over +6, which is also a -1. So my slope here is -1. All right, let's move on to the next set of data here. Number 5 asks you to graph this table by hand. So just like we said in the previous graph, we don't have to use increments of 1. We can use whichever increments suit our data. So here we're going to talk about the year being on our x-axis. In economics, we typically put time on the x-axis. Let's see, we start in 2010. So I'm going to make this 2010. And let's just make sure we have enough space. 2010, 2011, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, so that's our x-axis. Now our y-axis, we can choose to use whatever increments we want. Now, I'm going to figure that out by looking at what my smallest number is, and it looks like that's 20,000. And then my largest number looks to be 41,000 here. So I think maybe if we go in increments of 5, we can make this, or 5,000, we can make this work. Let's see. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and 45. So if I write 5,000 here, and 10,000 here, and 15,000 here, this ends up looking kind of messy. They're really large numbers. So we can use this different technique. We're going to label this axis our gross sales, not in dollars, but in thousands of dollars. So if we note this on our axis label, then the numbers that we write in our increments just have to be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. And this tells us that we're talking in thousands. This This part here says we're talking in thousands. So that means 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, and so on. So let's start plotting our points. In 2010, we have $20,000 in sales. 2011, we have 24,000. So we'll put that right about there. 2012 is 23,000. So we'll put that right about here. 2013, 26,000. 2014 is 27,000. So let's see, that is right about there. 2015, 31,000. 2016 is 29,000. 2017, 30,000. Oops, I just realized I put this point in the wrong place. Right, 2018, I have 35,000. In 2019, 41,000. Okay, so there's all my points, and this is what my line ends up looking like. Oftentimes when we're looking at values over time, our line ends up being kind of jagged, like this. So let's put a title on this graph. We're just going to call this gross sales over time. So the last question says, you may notice that this line does not have a consistent slope. The slope changes throughout the line. And this is common for graphs representing trends over time. But overall, what does this graph tell you? So don't overthink it here. All I'm asking is that you can look at this data and derive a trend from it. So what I can say from this line is that overall, gross sales increase. Gross sales increase over time. And that's all.